we are just going to go over a little bit of Alaska's current AgileAssets project, a little bit about ourselves, about our DOT, about our fleet, and then some of the interesting or unique challenges that we faced and things we're doing to take care of them. So we are Alaska DOT&PF, 5,600 miles. We do have 2 international airports. Interesting thing or unique thing about Alaska, we have about 250 rural airports that we take care of that require a lot of logistical challenges to get there, because the airport is the only way, the only means of transportation for most of those communities year-round. Some of them you can get to by boat between May and September. Ferries and barges will get to those villages, but the airport itself is the only means of transportation. So very vital piece of our transportation system. We also do, we have 11 ferries on the marine highway system. If you saw Dan's presentation earlier, he talked a little bit about that. And then we also do buildings. We have over 700 facilities that we take care of. So I work for the state equipment fleet. There's about 160 of us. We do spread out 53, I think it's actually a few more locations, 55 I believe is the number now. We do not only the DOT fleet, but we also do fleet services for all executive branch agencies. So that would include the Alaska State Troopers. That would include, again, the airports, as you can see. So for you reality show viewers, that's Ice Road Truckers on the top. That's Alaska State Troopers on the left there, and on the bottom was Alaska Bush People are near Homer, I believe. So we have about 5,500 assets that we take care of. And so some of those airports, some of those rural Alaska parts make for some real unique challenges. This slide here is just to kind of illustrate that. We have the guy you're seeing in the picture here. He lives in Anchorage, where I live. And to start his work week, he flies out to Bethel, which is out here at the mouth of the Kuskokwim River. So he works a week on and a week off in Bethel. And then to start his work week, he catches, so he flies out just on a regular commercial airline to Bethel. And then to start his work week, he jumps on a little turboprop and flies from Bethel to Antioch, which is a larger, smaller than Bethel, but not as small as Sleepmute, which is where he's headed to. And so the picture you see here, he's loading up his bag of tools and the parts that he needs to go to Sleepmute to fix, to do repairs on a grader that maintains the airport there. And so the airport is not accessible. Those are not, this is not Alaska Highway 1 and 2, that's the Yukon River and that's the Kuskokwim River there. So there's no road access for most of western Alaska. This whole half west of here, west of Anchorage, no road access. So, but the state maintains and keeps those airports running all the time. So we use this slide in other places. We title it just a regular work day for Thad. He's in the air about 150 days a year, just like that, taking care of airport equipment just like that. So just an example of some of the unusual logistical challenges that we face there. Oh, there he just flew to Antioch. Plane was late. So this is a little bit about our current EMS, our current equipment management system, put in place in 1991, almost immediately did not work. Spent several years getting it up and running to the point where it was functional. They bought the code maintained by a programmer that we had in-house from 1991 up until now. EMS currently is a client-server type of application. We have to load software on every single PC that you're going to use it on, which is so one of the big jumps for us. Big advantages now is going to Agile, being web-based. We can access that from anywhere. We have several interfaces with in our system. We do fleet services for the entire executive branch and other branches of government. So we have the fuel cards, commercial fuel cards for the entire fleet. So we have an interface with US Bank that comes in. They bill us in one bill, and then we put that on people's equipment and vehicle bills and bill it out. And we do that through CGI. Our brand of CGI is called Iris. It's been in place a couple years. So we bill all of our services through Iris, through CGI. And then we currently interface with our current MMS system, which is also being replaced as part of this project, to give them the rates that they charge to their projects. And we will be replacing that entire system with Agile in 2018. We will be doing it.
Very
right?
close, that much.
Very close. So in order to do that, we have a pretty complex system of chargeback rates that we charge, and a little different than most DOTs in that we charge these operating rates and replacement rates, and then the fees. They're all monthly rates that we charge to our users, depending on the type of user they are. Again, we service outside of DOT. We service outside of state government in some cases. Do some things for the railroad. Do some things for the university. So we have this pretty complex rate system. Golam was pretty excited to learn all about it, where we charge different rates for different things. And so we have a monthly operating rate that covers the maintenance costs. We have a replacement rate that covers the capital costs. And then the different fees are for the different services that we provide. An example might be the 2 international airports operate almost completely independently. But they do use our contracts for purchasing their equipment, and then we sell their equipment for them. So rather than charge them a monthly fee for our entire service, we just charge them a simple monthly rate, a very small procurement disposal fee to pay for the services that they get. And so just like everything else, what they pay for our other customers, like Dan here, doesn't have to pay for. So the rate system is just designed to allocate our costs as accurately and as evenly as we can. So we, a lot of words. So SEF is fine. We have an internal service fund, the Highway Capital Fund, Highway Working Capital Fund. We don't get any funding from the legislature, probably like a lot of you. We have to generate all of our revenue from the rates that we charge. And again, with all the different levels of service that we provide to different customers, creates a real complex coding and rate system to do that. And we do all that in EMS now, our current EMS. And so this is something that Agile has tackled for us and is going to come forward in our new system that to bill monthly operating replacement rates, all the different fees, and each one of these rates is calculated individually by vehicle. So we do have some class averages, but it's all based on the maintenance history and the capital costs of each individual piece of equipment. So thousands and thousands of rates that we calculate. So this is how we example of just an example of one of our bills. We have about 50 customers that we bill every year. Dan is a customer of ours. This is another customer of ours. This is Valdez, where the southern end of the Alaska pipeline, Pipeline. So we bill, even DOT, we bill for monthly for using and owning the equipment. And so the bills are interfaced directly to Iris, to CGI. And then we also produce, depending on the customer's preference, we can produce PDF or Excel files that they can use to disseminate their bills. And so the bills come as a kind of a summary, And then here is an example of individual pieces of equipment that are billed, the operating amounts, the replacement amounts is the total fix. This is broken down. You can see there's fuel charged here for this specific vehicle, and then the work order services. If someone is not paying an operating rate and we work on their vehicle, then we charge that over here as a garage service, a direct charge. So, example of that there. Here's some of the fuel charges come in on the U.S. Bank interface every month. Several thousand a month, and then they send one bill to us, and then we disseminate it out in their bills. So some of this is probably a lot like what you guys do, and some of it is a little bit unique. This would be the part of the bill for the billable work orders. Each work order broken down. You can see here the first one and the third one. We had work done and closed a work order previously, and then we had to add something to it. So we have the ability to do that now, and then just bill the difference if needed.
Just one comment over here. All these bills are produced within AgileAssets, and these bills are sent to the customer directly from the AgileAssets system through a single push button. So no matter how many agency you are billing, 50, 60, 70, or $1 million every month, everything is generated, stored, and sent through the system. That's a huge thing that we have done for Alaska.
Yeah,
Points to be noted.
I think it's between $3.5 and $4 million a month, and it's all broken down into little pieces like this, and it's all done. Takes about 15 minutes to accomplish right now, and that's what it'll take in Agile when we're done. So that's a little bit about the our fleet and how we're set up and how we bill. One of the unique or one of the specific challenges that we have because of the diversity of the state, and we have people all over the place, we have 13 parts people, parts staff, that procure all of our materials and parts for the fleet. The road maintenance folks have a different procurement process. 13 of them, the entire fleet, or the entire state, 300 locations or more. We're not always there. 60,000 transactions a year, so do the quick math, that's about 100 a week per person. We have a process in our current system that Agile is duplicating for us or creating in our new system so that we can do a transaction, buy parts, issue them to the work order, create all of the proper records, and do it in one fell swoop. So it's a single point of entry to do all this stuff. So less duplication. Instead of if we couldn't do this, it wouldn't be 60,000 transactions. It'd be 150,000 transactions. So how we do that is the process, and it's called PPIRO, and I'll let Golam explain how we're doing this in Agile.
Thanks, Brad. So what does PPIRO means? Very simple. Purchase parts, issue to repair order. Very simple. And I'm not going to say how we do it in text. I'm just going to tell you a story. So let's say this is your garage. A vehicle comes in. It needs some repair. The mechanic checks and looking for all the parts it needs to fix the vehicle. And here's a problem. My inventory does not have the parts. The warehouse is out of parts, or it's a brand new parts that I need to put into the vehicle. So what should I do? You know how difficult it is to get the material from other sources. So here's an idea. There is a parts shop 2 blocks away from me, APA or Advanced Parts Auto. So the mechanic goes there, grabbed the parts, came back to the shop, and he fixed the vehicle. So this is how we typically work. Now, what's the reality? Does it really happen this way in the system? Does anybody here uses the inventory warehouse? Can anybody tell me how many steps you have to perform? Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
If it's a new stock item, you have to develop a Hold that thought. Good job. If it's a new item, you have to create a master stock ID. Then you have to associate the item to the master stock ID. Then you have to purchase it into your inventory, and then you have to transfer it. In our case, you'd have to transfer it to the section that's using it. The section then has to find it, put it on their short list, and then once it hits their short list, it's available for a work order. 6 steps.
6 steps. What if I tell you you can eliminate all these 6 steps through this PPIRO functionality? Isn't that amazing? Okay.
You're crazy.
Okay, let's see how Brad Bylsma is doing it in Alaska. So PPIRO, this is a process needed to complete, purchase, and issue parts in one step. So what it does all the things that Doug just mentioned. It's a one window, multiple outcomes. Purchase parts, issue that parts to the repair order. Behind the scene, it also issues a purchase order. It creates material stock if it's a new stock. It also updates the material inventory, and it also tracks the transaction. All 6 steps are happening through a single functionality. So how does it work? So I think everybody knows this screen. This is our typical repair order window. The progress window, where we have the repair order information at the very top over here. And these are all our labor, equipment, parts, and commercial detail information. So let's zoom it out a little bit, and let's focus on the material. Now we're all talking about the material. So here in this material day cards, you started inserting a new material day card. You entered the activity, you entered the work date, and then you expand the material stock, and you don't see the material because it's a brand new material stock. And perfect example, Brad can tell that each and every day they get new parts. That parts is not in the master code. And do you have an example how many parts you typically add into your inventory?
I think about, for us, at least a third, and it may be a half, parts that are not, they're new to that specific location, new to that warehouse. Not new parts, so to speak, but definitely new to that warehouse. And when we're spread across the state, we will have situations where we don't have, in Golam's example there, the guy ran to the Napa store. And in some of our towns, we have a Napa store, and in some of our towns, we don't have a Napa store. So we're buying buying a different brand. And so, it's out of those 60,000 transactions,
20,000.
about 20 or 30%, I'd say, is new items.
So 1/3 of the stock is brand new. So do you think, is it feasible for a parts guy with the state of Alaska, only 13 people are issuing material day cards into the repair order? They have other jobs to do. And 1/3 of the new parts, they will have to go through these 6 different processes. Is it feasible for them to actually perform the work? No. So that's why we have invented this new functionality, purchase parts, which we call PPIRO. So what it happens, you first pick your activity, you choose the work date, then you do a right click on the same record. This purchase parts option would be only available for new records, not for existing records. Then you click this purchase parts, a new wizard will come directly in that window. It pre-populates the repair order number because you are in that repair order. Then you have the PO number, you enter the new PO number, choose your material class code, enters the material master code. So one point over here that people can make a mistake, maybe you have the master code, but you forgot. If it's a brand new master code, it will add it. Otherwise, it will just update the inventory. So there is no way you have duplicate master codes. So that is already checked here. Number 2, then material quantity received. So this is, let's say you are going for 5 quantity, that costs you $20. And the vendor that you are asking for is auto parts service, put a contact information, and also entered an invoice number. That's your PO invoice number. And put whatever comments you wanted to put. We are out of wiper blades. I'm just going to Napa Parts and buying these wiper blades. Then we have 2 small buttons over here. One says next, another one says cancel. At any point you wanted to abort the process, you can hit cancel and everything is just gone. You have no problem at all. But if you think I wanted to proceed with this purchase, you hit this next button, and a second wizard will come. This is just a confirmation page. Now, there are a couple of new columns that has been added by the system. The repair order number, the equipment ID. It already knows for which equipment you are doing the repair. It knows the activity that we are doing some PM inspection work, who has requested the parts, at which shop you are doing the repair work. Is for the McGraw shop. It's a wiper blade. The material class code is wiper blade. Material master code is XYZ. Measurement of unit is here. How much quantity you are asking, total cost, everything is here. Now, people make mistakes. I am supposed to buy 5, I entered 50. So I need to make a correction. For that reason, we have two new buttons over here. One says back, another says OK. If you are fine with reviewing everything, you can hit OK, or you can click this back button, which will bring you back to the previous screen, and you can again readjust your quantity or cost, whatever you wanted to make sure. So this confirmation page is just a sanity check to make sure that whenever parts guy is purchasing, he entered all the information in an accurate way. So after you are done with all this information and you are okay to go, then you hit OK, and system already add that material stock XYZ123 into the day card. It pre-populates the unit cost $20, quantity is 5. So your material day card has been already created with the new material that you have purchased from the source. Now what else is happening behind the scene? So that's so far what I have shown here. This is a parts guy's work. Create that PPIRO, enter quantity, and hit OK. It creates a material day card. The remainings are done by the system itself. This is our resource module, as you can see from here. And we have created this brand new window, parts request, where we kept all the records of the purchase orders for the parts. Behind the scene, the system is creating this PO record, where you can see who has created the parts request, for which shop, which equipment, what is the repair order number, which date it was bought. All these information are kept within this system. Okay. You can also print out a purchase order slip from the system, from the same window. Just do a right click and print the report. It will show you the same exact information for which vendor, who has done it, and how many items are there. That will be also shown in the same record. For some types of official or admin things, you may need to get some signature from the supervisor. That information is also here. You wanted to add something here?
Oh, this is creating a form. We have a pretty connectivity issues. We have some, issues with the remoteness of the state, and so sometimes we end up, and currently we're using some paper forms to complete that. So we might use this to give to the guy that jumped on the plane, so that he knows exactly how many parts he's supposed to have, or situations like that. So this paper, the form is kind of an added thing that it's created already as part of the process. It may or may not be used.
Okay, so let's look at the material management window. Again, these are all created by the system. The parts guy is never going to the material management window. I'm just showing you how system is handling this. So one of our most complicated window, material management. So the top pane where we kept all the stock list. So the green item, the very last one highlighted. This is the new parts that we have bought. It was bought for McGraw shop. It also associates the warehouse ID, which is your McGraw parts warehouse ID. CM is the code. The master code is XYZ123. Class code is wiper blade. You bought 5 of them. Total cost is 20. It kept that information over here. Bottom pane, transaction. As we have purchased this through a PO process, it automatically creates a PO receipt information. It's the direction in. That means your parts is coming into your inventory. Material master code is XYZ, quantity 5, and also we put a comments over here that this is through a material request ID, which is 315. For any auditing purpose, you can always go and check your material purchase order window, where you can always find this 315 number PO and always see how many parts you have bought and add it to your day card. Finally, when you are done with adding this material day card, you approve it. The remaining process is exactly the same. It automatically deducts that much quantity from the inventory, so your material inventory is always in sync with your material day card. That's our regular way of doing things. So at this point, I'm going to pause and open some questions before I go into the next slide. Yes, Doug.
You just keep it?
So what do you do if you buy more and actually have something in inventory? So how does that, so I bought 5, but I only used 1. Does that record it?
So that would be a process that you would not maybe use this process to do. So when we're buying for remote locations a lot, we're trying to buy specifically what we need, and sometimes we're buying over. Oh, and by the way, wiper blades are expensive in Alaska, by the way.
Not $20? You're charging more?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a process to back them off, to back parts off of the repair order if you find out later on that we bought 5 but we only used 1, like you said. There'll be a process to reverse that.
So the idea here is that this PPIRO, you purchased, you use them all. That's the concept. But you are exactly right. You can always stock your inventory. That goes through the regular PO window that tackles all these material management. So you can purchase 100, you can store them, and as you need, you can use it. But this concept is you need to get the repair done to let the vehicle go for winter work or whatever. You are not waiting for all these different window management and everything. Any other question? Yes, Ron.
It's just a comment.
Michael?
In Kentucky, we don't use, we have a material tab and a direct cost tab.
Mm-hmm.
The material tab is what's stocked that we get from the central warehouse in Frankfurt. Yeah. The direct cost, if one of my road mechanics or if one of my shop mechanics needs a part that we don't have, the parts guy will call Napa or Advance Auto, whoever, that has the parts that he can get the best price from.
Mm-hmm.
They deliver the part. They write what they call a window ticket of what they need.
Mm-hmm.
When they get it, the stock guy puts the price on it. I bill it out directly to a work order under direct cost.
Yeah.
And then I just say what it is. He bought 2 spark plugs and where he bought them from.
Yeah.
That seems better than putting it all into inventory. We
Absolutely.
don't want to put that kind of parts that we're buying from Napa and places like that individually into inventory.
So the reason that we do want to do it that way is so that we can track it later on, so that we know if we're buying a bunch of these wiper blades in McGrath and then we're buying a bunch of the same wiper blades in Juneau or in Ketchikan, then we can run reports on our materials and find out, hey, we're buying a bunch of these same things, maybe we should just have these in stock instead of our guys running around and maybe they're not getting the best price. Maybe we can do better if we buy them in town and ship them out when the mechanic goes out. So that was our thought there.
And commercial detail is always there. So you can add your material cost coming from outside vendors. You can always track it through a separate tab. That functionality is still valid. This is an additional functionality that these guys are using to keep the inventory up to date within their system. And by the way, Alaska is using 100% of our material management system. Starting from purchase, transfer, issue, reconciliation, correction, everything is happening within AgileAssets.
Gentlemen, we have a couple questions from Slido. First one is, how is the PPIRO process integrated with the financial system?
At the fleet, we do all of our own purchasing, and then that bill, that parts bill that you see there is actually forwarded right now in paper form to the financial group to actually pay the bill. So at this point, that part of the process is going to remain exactly the same as what we have now, where we send it to our accounting staff and they actually pay that bill.
All right, next question from Slido is, how is the PPIRO process? You moved it.
Wait.
What controls are in place to prevent users from entering new material times with similar descriptions, and how is data integrity maintained?
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. If it's an existing material master code, you type the same material master code, it will not duplicate the master code. It will just keep updating the current inventory. So that check is already there. So there is no way you can have similar XYZ dash 1, 2, 3 10 times in your inventory. That is already checked at the data entry level. So you will not have this issue.
And one more, is the functionality going to be rolled out to MMS as well?
Why not? Everybody who use our manager series and in broader text, everyone is using our material, this functionality can be used in other modules as well. It's all about how you are using this functionality to maintain your material and parts warehouse.
Thank you.
I think Michelle has a question, right?
Well, my question is, does Alaska have to buy from contracts like WSCA, from term contracts?
We buy some stuff from WSCA. We buy a lot of stuff locally. We have a local or an in-state vendor preference, of course. And so a lot of the WSCA contracts with some of the light-duty parts vendors, they don't really apply in Alaska because everybody there is an independent store owner. And so with the shipping costs that we deal with, the WSCA contracts sometimes don't always apply, and we actually do better going direct to the vendors themselves. So we do a combination of both.
And my other question is for direct parts, we buy a lot of parts that we are not storing in-house for inventory. It's directly for that repair.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually bring it in to our inventory, our resources inventory, because it's being purchased for that repair and that repair only. So does Alaska, for all of the parts that they buy for all of their repairs, are they bringing it into their inventory?
I think the commercial detail tab is still there. If they don't want to add them in the inventory, they can keep using the commercial detail, add them in the material cost column. But whatever they think is useful for their inventory for future use, they just use this PPIRO. You can add it.
We do both. So if it's an actual commercial repair that is where we're paying somebody to do the repairs, we'll enter that through the commercial repair window or the commercial detail window, and it won't be tracked this way. What we found is that by running it through inventory and understanding, like you said, you don't want to put it into your inventory. It goes through and it goes out, but it leaves a stamp that you used it. And so that's kind of the important part for us, is so then we know, hey, we're using a bunch of these things. Maybe we should stock them, things like that.
And keep it on inventory.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
and so we could keep it in inventory. So people making on-the-spot purchases. In Alaska, there is a wide variety of cost when you're buying a wiper blade in Dutch Harbor compared to what you're buying one in Anchorage. So, a lot of times we buy them locally, and that's the only way to do it. But a lot of times there's savings, of course, in buying in bulk, but then also in buying in the larger towns. So, being able to track where we're using each of these individual items, it's a lot, but the process makes it very simple. So you don't have a whole bunch of extra work. It's the same amount of work to put in as a commercial detail, but yet you have all this information retained so that we can use it for the next, or use it as reference for the next purchase.
One last question. Are you required to take inventory of your in-house? So you take an inventory, and has this increased your inventory levels of how many stock items you're counting because you're...
So our current system, and we flush out any part that is not in stock and doesn't have a quantity of one in stock for more than 2 years. So if we only bought these wiper blades in McGrath one time and never did it again, well, 2 years from now it's not going to show up in inventory. We have a way of marking that, so we don't have to count a million zero items.
Okay.
If that's what you're
I think
getting
they
at.
have a last 24 months used
Yeah.
inventory number in the material inventory column that we have added for them. And they can always run some report to see, okay, what are the parts that we never used in the last 24 months? So it should be automatically removed from the short list that will never shown up in the day cards. So nobody can use it. And they have also a 2 months stock column so that they can always run some report to see, okay, show us the stock inventory level if it is too low, because some of those remote areas and winter condition, they have to make sure that they have 2 months of stock in their warehouses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Okay, so next slide, you will see this new added material is already in the shortlist. That means it has been ticked in the shortlist window already. So you can use it for future material day card as you go. And there is no limitations. You can add multiple day cards as you wish, and every time you can do the same process. If it is an existing inventory, you can just pick from any of the existing material shortlist and keep doing material day cards. So that process is still there. So it's an additional functionality that they will be using to maintain and do these things more streamlined. Now, future enhancements. So while I was in Fairbanks last January, some of my parts guys say, okay, whatever you have done is excellent, but it will not serve our purpose. I said, why? They said, okay, this is a typical purchase order window, purchase slip that I get from Brad. Just watch here, this is the vendor number information. They have a one single PO, one single invoice number, but it has 15 different items. That means that parts guy went to a vendor and bought 15 different items. With this current process, how many times they will have to create this? 15 times, because each PO is tied to a single parts. So are we giving them enough time? No. So we have talked about this to see how we can improve this enhancement. So it's a single PO, still single invoice, but the user should have the capability to add multiple parts information somewhere here. So we have already talked about that with Brad and his team. So we'll have a new pane over here where they can still capture the repair order number, PO number, invoice number, I think 4 or 5 fields that is more generic from this slip. And we will kind of break down this pane where you can enter multiple parts like this, so that it is still a single PO, but user gets now the option to add more than one parts information over here. Then they will hit next, and boom, 15 day cards will be automatically created in the material day card. 15 material new stock will be created. 15 transactions will be created. So everything else is always streamlined. But they can take the advantage of not entering 15 of this rather than just kind of doing the same thing through a single thing. So this is something we're going to do in the next couple of months. See how it goes.
That 92-cent item is a greaser, by the way.
Okay. Any other question, comments, feedback?